So all this time and I haven't done a sourdough how-to video, so this is it. I start with 3 cups of water. This is about 1 cup of active starter. Now, I'm kind of more of a chaos baker, so I do not really do measurements or anything like that, so I'm going to try to do my best. Now here you're going to see that you want your starter to float. That means that it's ready to bake. If it's not floating, then feed it again and wait for it to float when you put it in water. I'm using a dough whisk to mix it all together. I do use warm water while doing this. And like I said, about 3 cups of water, about a cup of starter. Now you can half this. This is kind of like a double recipe, and actually what I'm going to do is split this in fourths because I want to make smaller loaves. So bake how you want. So I'm going to put 6 cups of bread flour. I mean all-purpose flour. I don't usually use bread flour. 6 cups in there, and then you're going to mix it together and you're going to make a shaggy dough. Now you can do this with the dough whisk, you can do this with a wooden spoon, or you can combine with your hands. Now I find it easiest to kind of incorporate the ingredients and then go in with my hands like you're gonna see me in a few minutes. It does get super messy, and the trick that I've learned is get all of the dough off of your hand when you're finished mixing, and then kind of put flour on your hand, open your trash can, and then just like rub your hands together until it all comes off. That's the easiest way that I've found. Also, a gentle reminder that sourdough is horrible on your pipes, so do not put it down the sink. Really try to clean your bowls really well, and either dump them outside or wipe them out and put them in the trash. Now, another thing that I do is I say intentions into my bread. So while I'm mixing, I continually say positive intentions and affirmations. I say health, wealth, abundance, love, gratitude, empathy, and joy over and over again until I'm done mixing. At this point, I have covered the dough and I let it sit for about 30 minutes. I put a little bit of water on top, I get my hands wet, and then I put about 2 teaspoons of salt in it, and I do my first round of stretch and folds. So you just grab the corner or the edge and then you fold it over on itself. Grab and fold over. You repeat that 4 times. You cover it back up, let it sit for another 30 minutes, and you will repeat stretch and folds about every 30 minutes for the next few hours. Now, sometimes I only do 2, sometimes I do 3. It kind of just depends on how quick and fast my dough ferments. This one I am doing a coil fold. So I pick it up in the middle, I turn it a quarter of the way, pick it up in the middle, kind of throw it down. If the dough is really sticky, I'll slap it down like I just did. And if it's not too sticky, I just kind of shake it out and then roll it together on itself. I'll cover this and I'll repeat this 1 to 2 more times. I say this all the time, but sourdough does not have to be complicated. I just urge you to try and fail and try and keep doing it. It's 3 ingredients. It is a process, but if they could bake sourdough on the Oregon Trail, we can bake sourdough in our very technologically sound kitchens, okay? While doing this coil fold, I am going to cut it in half. Like I said, this is a double recipe, and later after they rise a little bit, I'm going to cut them into fourths. So you'll see when I shape the dough that it's a lot smaller than it is. And I would just like to say sourdough does not have to be complicated. You don't have to temp the dough. You just kind of have to see what looks good, what feels good. Sometimes I don't do stretch and folds at all. I can do a whole nother video about that. I usually do it when I'm doing a lot and bulk baking, because it kind of ferments and does everything faster the more you have. I'm actually trying this recipe because my house is a different temperature, and that makes a really, really, really big difference on your dough. I would also like to say that I don't like the super, super traditional big holes in my dough, so I have figured out a recipe, timing, and all this stuff that makes it how I like it, where it has a tight crumb, but it's still airy, it still has a good spring, and you'll see at the end of the video exactly what I'm talking about. Now here I do a few slap and folds just to get the dough to come back together, and then I just kind of push the dough back and pull it towards me to create that tension. I did forget to where I put it in the bannetons, but I put it in the bannetons. I floured the top with some rice flour, and then I put it in the banneton. I let it sit overnight in the refrigerator, and it rose a little bit more. Now, like I said, these are fourths of the bread that I'm making. They're usually about, you cut them in half. The recipe is for 2 loaves of bread, but I wanted to make 4 smaller ones. So I just use, I have dough slings, but I actually like using parchment paper better, because you're gonna see in a minute how dirty my Dutch ovens are, and it's because I use them all the time, and they're very difficult to wash. So I'm just adding more rice flour here. Now I'm just going to do a score. I do designs. You don't have to. You can even use a regular kitchen knife and you score it from top to bottom. It just needs time to expand. It needs a score, a large deep score to expand, and I do a 45-degree angle. And I do designs, but you don't have to do that if you don't feel comfortable. This is cold dough, so it's a lot easier to score than just room temperature dough. So you're going to preheat your oven to 450. You're going to throw your Dutch ovens in the oven while it's preheating. And then my oven bakes a lot faster and a lot stronger. And so I add this foil to the bottom. You can add rice, but this is a lot easier for me. And you can see this is a very, very well used Dutch oven, but it works great and I love it. And so you just put the bread in there. You cover the lid, you bake it at 450 for 30 minutes covered. You take the lid off after 30 minutes, and then you bake it for 15 minutes uncovered. Now this is fresh out of the oven. It is super, super hot. So I'm gonna let it cool, and in the next video, I'll show you the spring and how to slice it and how it looks. Now, if you watch this video and say to yourself, I don't have the time for that, I don't want to do that, you can always buy it from me or buy it from any local source. But I would also like to encourage you to try. I give away my starter, and if you still think you don't have time, look at your phone usage. Now you'll see how I pushed it down, and that's because traditional sourdough bread, you can push it down and it doesn't stay down like regular bread. You'll see me slice it in a minute, which is always difficult for me. You'll see that later in the video, and you'll see the crumb that I'm talking about. I don't like the big holes. That's a preference for me. I think that this looks perfect. And like I said, this is a lot smaller of a loaf. This is a quarter of the recipe. So it's a lot smaller loaf that I usually bake. Now here you're gonna see me struggling, and I found that this is the easiest way to cut this bread, is you slice it in half, put the sliced half down, and then you cut it again. Now you see me struggling, so I'm gonna switch knives, and you'll see the slice, and this is exactly how I like it. It doesn't have a super sour flavor because I don't like sour flavor, and neither does the rest of my family. We love the gut benefits. So if you want it to be more sour, you can leave it in the refrigerator for longer than overnight.